got my good friend Nate Suppley from CustomPCMax.com with me again to look at another new case. This one is from a new company, Fractal-Design, whose home base is in Sweden, and the case is the Define R2 mid-tower. Now, at the time of this recording, you cannot get the case in the United States yet, but a company based in Canada, NCIX.com, will be offering the case in late April to U.S. residents. Now, you're going to have to pay a premium for shipping. So we're hoping that this video will help generate more excitement for the case and hopefully get some U.S. distribution soon for it, because it offers a lot of cool options just outside the box. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're based out of Sweden, so the case itself, the exterior, is very minimalistic in styling. A lot of straight edges, clean front panel on there. The interior is nice as well. It's large, a lot of room for expansion. 10 drive bays, and room for an ATX motherboard, so it's definitely a good case.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about it, and a lot of people have done reviews on it, but from what I've seen, nobody's really dissected it as much as I would like to see them do. So that's hopefully what we're going to do for you, so you can at least make an assessment if it's worth paying the extra in shipping from this company in Canada, or waiting till somebody in the US stocks it so you can save some money. A lot of people are comparing it to the Antec P180, which has been out for a few years now. You can see some of the styling cues with the front door and the vents around the front bezel to the 180. I do like how they've got the switches and input ports. Looks pretty nice on there.
Right, you got mic and headphones, 2 USBs and an eSATA. And the power switch here, when it does power up, it glows blue along with this blue light there. Alright, here's the back of the case. You can see there's holes here for water cooling. Below that we got the 120mm fan. And then they have 7 expansion slots, which they've been nice enough to paint the covers white, which, well, looks pretty slick.
Yeah.
And below that, there's the power supply for a bottom mount power supply, which is, you know, really the current way everyone's doing it. It comes with this foam built in here to kind of dampen the sound of the power supply.
Also, it's like, lift that up, Nate, is
we have a vent on the bottom there.
Yeah.
So your
slide out filter for the power supply, which is slick.
That's very nice, and there's a lot of clearance with these feet too.
Yeah, I noticed it was odd at first that there's larger feet on the front and then smaller at the back, and that's just to accommodate the spacing for the power supply vent. And then they offer the option on the bottom for either using a 120 or 140mm intake fan.
2 vents up here which have the foam installed right now, so they're not actually open. They take a 140 or a 120mm fan.
Oh yeah, they call this the Modu vent.
Yep.
There's actually the insulation that they use. There's individual pieces that cover each fan opening. So if you don't want to use these and you're really going to you want to quiet your system as much as possible, you can leave those in.
One thing to note, that the steel on the exterior here is actually pretty thin. It's not a big deal. The actual frame is pretty sturdy, so it's not a real issue, but it isn't the thickest steel ever. Panel vent, it's the same as the top ones. 140 or 120 will fit in there. Same Modu vent sort of cover inside. It's a removable piece that you can either leave in for silence or take out for extra cooling.
Now you put this thing up on the scale, and let's weigh this thing. It's a steel case except for the front bezel door on it. So out of the box, it's weigh.
Looks to be about 23 pounds almost.
Yeah.
Not too bad, it's actually pretty light.
You know, the reason why I want you to weigh it is because take that access panel off if you can. Yeah. Weigh that panel alone, Nate.
Looks to be a little over 4 pounds, which is pretty heavy for a panel, and it feels heavy. But
well, it's this insulation material they use, which is
bitumen.
Yeah, if that's how it's pronounced. We did a little bit of research, and it's like it's a tar-based material that is used for insulation and waterproofing. Some people have complained that it's got a peculiar smell to it, but it's not that bad.
No, it's really not too noticeable. I guess the question is, will it smell any when it heats up? But
exactly,
it's really not too bad out of the box. I mean, I was expecting worse. So on the front panel, you can see their goal here is cooling. I mean, you got 2 big vents. You don't have an overabundance of these 5 1/4 inch bays. Just 2, and one comes with the 3 1/2 inch bay expansion piece. One thing to note about it though is because of this foam sound dampening material on the door, you're not going to be able to fit a fan controller in here. The knobs will not clear once you close it. Now these fans, they just pop open like that. It's pretty easy. They have a couple screws in here to remove the fan and clean them, but it's pretty easy to get at. And there's spots for 2 120 millimeter fans.
Vented bezel on.
Yep, runs up and down both sides.
Is there an opening on the bottom?
Yeah, there is. If you pop it up here, you can see that there's actually room for air to go through there. So should definitely not have any trouble pulling air in on this one. Also, the door is magnetized. There's little magnet pieces here, and then just clamp shut like that. Alright, we take the back panel off here. It's got that same bitumen sound dampening material, full, covered pretty much the whole panel. So, and then when we look inside here, on the top of the case, it's the same stuff in those 2 120, 140 millimeter vents, which unscrew like the side panel. And then up here, which is kind of hard to see, but there's another sheet of it above the drive bays, so it's really covering everything.
That's pretty much it for that stuff. Is there any more of it?
I don't see any more. So looks like, yeah, that's about it. So, which is all the main areas. The only thing that doesn't have any is the bottom, but hopefully your floor will deaden any of that sound.
And then they have got there's another filter in here for the bottom intake fan, but this looks to be screwed in versus snapping out. Yeah, that was screwed in from the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
120 or 140 millimeter.
And it looks like they took some cues from Corsair of the Obsidian 800D, where they've got these cable management, these grommeted holes.
And they have a lot of them, which is really nice, you know, so depending on the layout of your motherboard, you have a lot of access to hiding your cables. Motherboard tray here, it is not removable, so that's something to take note of. But it does have a nice large opening on the back plate, so you can easily swap out your heat sinks. And then we got our the cables that come pre-installed are nice and long for the front ports, so there's no problem really managing how to hook those up. And the 2 fans that it does come with, they do have sleeved cabling on it, which is nice. Looks good.
It's not a toolless design though, which doesn't bother me.
No, I mean it's pretty nice. A lot of the toolless designs are pretty chintzy, so it's okay to see that they didn't try to cheap out there. It's just got these little thumb screws holding them in. 3 1/2 inch drive bay mount, which is optional. just goes in here. It has a couple of thumb screws that sink in here, so it's really easy to get in and out. And then we have the rest of the hard drive bays below that. So there's 8 bays, so there's plenty of room if you want to do a RAID setup, just extra hard drives for movies and pictures and music. I mean, you're not going to run out of hard drive space here. Each of the bays, you pull this or squeeze these little tabs and it slides right out. So that part of this is toolless, which is pretty nice. And as you can see, they got mounting holes for solid state drives out of the box, which is nice. You know, a lot of the new cases have that. Older cases don't, so you're kind of able to go with that route pretty easily. And then the other mounting holes for 3.5-inch drives are on the bottom instead of the side like most.
And they're got those rubber grommets for vibration dampening.
Yep. So you just drop it in there, throw some screws in the bottom, and then you can just slide it right in here. A lot of the mid towers, you know, they have this overabundance of these 5.25-inch bays. I mean, you got 4 or 5 of them in there, and you really only need a couple. You know, your Blu-ray drive, media card reader, maybe a fan controller. I mean, so what they've done here is they've consolidated it down to 2, which is really sensible and leaves you all this room for these extra hard drive bays. And the whole hard drive bay is actually pretty sturdy. I mean, it's pop riveted in there, so I mean, it's sturdy in there. It's nice. The only issue I have with it is that these bays are not in here real tight.
Yeah. So
if you were to have a fast-moving hard drive, I think there could be a possibility for some vibrations there. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's hard to say for sure, but it's not the end of the world. But just something to take note of. On the back side of it, they have these ports for shooting your hard drive cables through really easily. So you have a nice clean looking setup. Alright, we're live.
Okay, to remove the front intake fans, there is 4 screws that hold in each fan, and the front filter is incorporated to the fan holder. And again, note that there is an opening beneath the lower front fan, so there's ample airflow there. And then the fans are just snapped into this cage like that. And we'll power up the fans too and see what they sound like. Now to take off the front bezel, looks to be pretty straightforward. There's these plastic pegs similar to Antec that you push in on both sides. I can actually squeeze them with my fingers. So of course you got the wires here. But you can see. What is this? Something glued in here. Oh, magnets?
Magnets.
Yep, it's the magnets they've glued in. Just looking behind the motherboard plate for room to run cables through here, there is this lip right here. So there's just, well, there is room actually below and above the lip to run some cables like your fan wires from the back fan. So I would have liked to have seen a lip that was smaller. That there isn't a lot of space between the top ceiling of the case and where your motherboard's going to be. You've got about 1.5 inches to accommodate a radiator. And I just happen to have a Black Ice Pro Radiator 240. As you can see, so you're not going to be able to have fans inside with the radiator. You're going to have to put the fans on the outside. And another note is that the 2 fan holes do not match up with the 15mm spacing on this radiator either. You're going to have to make new mounting holes. The 2 Modu vent plates actually have plastic cores that are about 3/16 inches thick with the insulation on there. Here is the accessories that Fractal-Design includes with the R2, and there's some slick illustrations of the contents inside. Now this is really slick. They include a fan controller that mounts in one of the rear PCI slots, and this will control 3 fans. I don't know what the voltage rating is on that, but we can try it out. Plenty of screws, looks like black anodized thumb screws, drive screws, and motherboard standoffs. And then they include 2 strips of velcro to help with cable management. I went to go plug in the connection. The glue came off on the PCB board. So just a warning to everybody else out there. Connection. Yeah. Well, if you're looking for some really quiet fans that are low RPM, 1000 RPM, 15 decibels, and they move 38.5 CFM, then the Fractal-Design silent 120s are for you.
We got the GTX 295. We're just going to see if it'll fit, being that this is one of the longer cards out there. And it does. We have about an inch of clearance on the end here, so this case will definitely accommodate the larger cards out there.
Nate and I decided that we wanted to install 5 120mm fans. So what we're going to do instead is use this fan controller by Mitron. It's called the noise isolator. However, there's a problem. As mentioned earlier, because of the door, it's not going to clear the fan controller knobs. So here is an alternative solution. You can mount the fan controller in the bay the opposite direction, and then have the wires run up and over it to the motherboard plate side. Okay, Nate, since you've had a chance to put a system in the Fractal-Design R2 case, what are your final thoughts on it?
Well, overall, I think it's a pretty nice case. There's not too many features that are like, you know, crazy, like, oh, this is unbelievable, but it's got a little bit of everything in it, and it's all really nicely done. You know, you got your good cable management, you got plenty of space. Of course, the sound dampening is a nice feature. Plenty of airflow if you want. You know, it's optional. You can leave those plates in, and lots of hard drive space. So I mean, this is kind of, I think it would make a really good home server if you're looking for something along those lines, because it'll be quiet. You can leave it run all the time and not hear this whirring machine in your corner. So I don't know. I give it a pretty good rating. You know, I like it. It a lot. You know, especially if it comes in under $100. I think it'll really be a hot item. So hopefully somebody in the U.S. picks up distribution of it and offers it to us, because there's a lot of people that really like this. I mean, whether you're looking for a silent rig or if you're looking for even a gaming system, it's got the you can grow into better cooling options for it too. So yeah, well, thanks for watching the video, and it's the Fractal-Design Define R2